Come and shoot the breeze with myself and guests as we deep dive into some topics that may just pin your eyelids right back. So good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all our viewers out there, and welcome to another series of Shoot the Breeze with myself, host Mandy Horton. And today's guest is Brad Flutey, and I've been just talking with Brad, saying how much I admired him and still do through his journey, and that I've been wanting to, putting out there to get him on a chat with myself for a long time. So here you are, Brad, and welcome.
Thank you, Mandy. Good to be here.
It's lovely to see you looking well. It's a really nice, really good thing. I was a little shocked. I'm not sure, how many know about your journey that you've just been through, but a little while back. But I know when I saw the post when you first got out of detention, and that you had, you'd lost a lot of weight. You had really held the line in there, and I was blown away. I just thought, this is, watching you over the years hold the line, speak truth, and be, crucified basically for it in many ways, many different ways. And then this was just like, wow, how far can they go and how far can it go? I suppose it could go a lot further, but you held the line, and that was something that, I just admire for that. And like I said, we all have in our own way, but you've been very much out in the front there with Horace Media throughout the, Wellington stand-in and all of that. So, Brad, tell us, how did it all, like, I know how it all began in a sense around what you were doing and what you're up to, but just explain for those who don't what actually occurred and how it went down, as much as you wish to share, of course, and can share.
Well, I won't go into too much detail about the original case that
Yeah.
surrounded this, situation. But it all started, was it 2 or 3 years ago now, inside of Liquorland, and then it moved outside. And I'd been going around Whangarei to different stores, and I'd been checking to see whether they were meeting their policy obligations with reference to people who are exempt from mask wearing. Because I've been observing posts from particularly women who were going into stores who were exempt from mask wearing, and they were being, in some cases, assaulted by store managers and sometimes even store owners who believed that those individuals who were exempt from mask wearing were not meeting their obligations, the store's obligations to the mask mandate. They were 100% wrong, and they only had to check the Ministry of Health website and read about people who are exempt from mask wearing to find out that they had no rights to ask them for their private medical information, and they had to simply take them on their word. They had to believe that they were honest and sincere and identifying as exempt. There's some legal specifics why that's the case. I won't go into detail on those things. They're all publicly available anyway. You only have to look at the legislation and the rules that all registered business owners have to subscribe to. And all the rules that they subscribe to as being a registered business owner has to be consistent with one another. And I'll give you an example. For example, the Trespass Act has Section 13 of the Trespass Act. It's called savings. And in there it says that nothing in this act shall derogate against any other section or act. Now, derogate means take away. So essentially, you can't trespass someone for being Māori because of that section of that act, because it would derogate against the Human Rights Act. Okay. So when you're a registered business owner, you are subscribing to all these rules and obligations that are put forth in legislation, and those rules and obligations, they can't contradict with one another. So there's a very good reason why people who identified as exempt were exempt, and they didn't have to tell you or give you proof of exemption.
Yeah.
So that all started from that, and it actually turned. I'd done this several times in Whangarei. I'd done this at the New Zealand Post. I'd done this at the Mitre 10, and none of these occasions had turned into this video of a massive assault. On this occasion, it did, and I won't go into the details on that. The details are already out there through private conversations.
Yeah.
You can believe what you want from other people who stood on the outside, looked in, and created a whole bunch of opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that's not ever going to be the full story. So if you want the full story, best to talk with the people who are involved and find the proof where the two sides agree.
Mm.
That's proof in the modern world. It's where the two sides agree. You can't argue with your own words.
No.
So if you're looking for proof rather than evidence and facts, which are weaker forms of the former,
Mm-hmm.
proof, and proof seeks out the truth, you look where the two sides agree.
Yeah.
So that all happened there. We went through a process of determining facts, or rather what a certain organization wanted the facts to be presented as. I sent an email to the court around sentencing, stating why I wouldn't be appearing anymore. That email wasn't returned. There was no reply to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I presume that they accepted the contents of that email and carried on my lawful business.
Yeah.
We as a family, we just moved from up in Northland to the Bay of Plenty. This was before the sentencing date. And there were various reasons why we moved. Our home environment had become quite unhealthy. We wanted a better life for the children. A better opportunity was presented down the Bay of Plenty. And so we moved down there, and everything was fine. I mean, I was even pulled over on my way through Waiouru and not detained. I was free to go.
Yeah.
So we just moved on with our lives, really, for the next 9 to 10 months. And then around July, I think it was July 16th, could have been a little bit later. In fact, it was before that, because I was away at work most of the time. Police officers from the Tauranga Central Police Station came all the way out into the other regions and raided my mother's house multiple times, allegedly looking for me. Before this, one of my family members was put in prison for a raft of fraud charges, and we suspected it maybe had something to do with that rather than me, because of what I just mentioned earlier. But they came through, and the multiple times they were coming through was scaring the children, making them feel quite anxious towards the police. And I didn't really want that. There are members in the police force I have a lot of respect for, and I don't want my family members developing a negative general opinion of the entire uniform.
Yeah.
The office of constable was supposed to stand for keeping the peace, not forcing your version of peace onto other people through the mask of violence. And so I came back home. I actually took a few days off and just stayed at my mother's, waiting for them to come back. And they came back on the Tuesday after I went to the court and lodged some documents. Those documents might have peeved them off a little bit. And then I was detained. There were 6 of them that turned up. They had rubber pellet guns, tasers. They basically surrounded the house as if I was going to try and run. One of our kids was there, so I just went out and met them out the back, and they detained me. They took me to the Tauranga police station. I had 3 goes in front of the court with the judge there, and then they decided they were going. They offered bail, of which I questioned endlessly. and then they remanded, or their words is they remanded me in prison, Spring Hill, but I didn't end up going to prison because the endless questions that I asked.
Right.
So I stayed at the Tauranga police station for, I think it was maybe 3 nights, might have been a bit less. They kept coming around asking me if I wanted to go on the bus, and I just asked questions with relations to those offers. And they ended up taking me in a police cruiser to the Rotorua hub. They kept me there for another couple of nights, maybe. During this process, I was going without water for 72 hours. I was only fortunate enough to get water and actually a visit with my family until a honourable sergeant took over the shift at the Rotorua police station.
Yeah.
Got some electrolytes, some water, so that broke a 72-hour water and food fast. At the Tauranga police station beforehand, they thought I was just acting up, and then when they got a St. John's officer to come in and check, they said he said, well, he's probably having salt cramps and passing out, and been without water for quite a while. So I suggest maybe just letting his family bring in water and sustenance for him like he's asked. And that's when they allowed that to happen. So the police weren't as bad as Spring Hill. It only took 72 hours for them to act. They finally transferred me from the hub in Rotorua to Spring Hill. They had to drag me on a blanket to the bus and then try and lift me onto it. They did that pretty well.
Yeah.
So they succeeded in that. And then when I got to Spring Hill, I just carried on with the questions. They wanted me to sign a bunch of things, of which I asked them whether I was required to sign it. The truthful answer was no. And once they make the answer no, then essentially you can presume that they're withdrawing the offer. So that would carry on, and they decided to take a stance of intimidation and psychological warfare to get me to break not just the hunger strike, but in their terms, the refusal to sign documents, of which it was always my position that whenever they presented me these documents to sign, I would simply ask them a question and they would withdraw the offer upon realizing that I wasn't required to sign it.
Yeah.
And so most of the time it would have to go up to higher level officers in order for that truth to be accepted. A lot of them would be presuming that you'd have to sign it, and they'd use force tactics and aggression and stuff like that. And you can just, if you can remain calm, and one of the great things about a hunger strike is you do get a form of mental clarity, and where there's not a whole bunch of stuff that you're bringing in all the time. And it wasn't just the hunger strike that gave me the mental clarity. There was no screens, there was no, well, there were televisions in there, but the incessant communication from people like that, it all stopped. I was in an environment where everything was restricted. So I had so much more time than what I was used to.
Yeah.
Everything slowed right down. For them, they were in a constant state of busyness. So even though I was without food, without water, I felt sharper than them almost the entire time, apart from when things got really bad.
Right.
That was all going pretty well. The first unit they sent me to when they took me to Spring Hill was high security. They sort of made a comment because I wouldn't sign anything that I'd be taken to mainstream with the gang members and the murderers. And I said, "Is that a threat?" And he goes, no, you're refusing to sign anything. I said, well, hang on a sec. Have I refused to sign anything, or have I simply just asked you whether I'm required to sign these documents and what the signature for the documents is going to be used for? Like, I've asked you for all the details. Clearly, I'm being gerrymandered into a commercial arrangement. I want to know what the particulars are. What's the small print behind all of these documents you want me to sign? Of course, they don't know any of that. And if you ask
No.
specific questions that their higher ups don't want to answer, they'll dishonor the agreement completely by just leaving it there. So that was the position I was going to take the entire time with the. And I want to clear up this hunger strike stuff. A lot of people said that I was refusing food because I wanted my mummy's cooking, which sure, mummy is a great cook. But the position was more of a lawful stance I wanted to keep.
Yeah.
This organization calls itself corrections, so it implies that what it's there to do is to correct people who are operating in an incorrect manner.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with that presumption was I felt I was much like anybody who isn't detained or in prison. I was pretty much hopefully traversing in a direction that is correct anyway. My position to you, corrections, is prove that you are actually correcting people, right?
Mm.
So I have a problem here. I've been unlawfully detained by the police. I've asked questions of a court that they don't want to answer. I've put their own words to them and they still don't want to answer.
Yeah.
Show me the proof that you're in a lawful position with relation to these things I've put in front of you and why I should accept offers from you if you're not in a lawful position.
Mm.
I believe you to be in an unlawful position. So if that's the case and I can prove it, why should I accept offers from you and be a party to your crimes? Because that's what it is. If all
Yeah.
these things require my acceptance, they must be an offer rather than an authoritative command.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have all these policies and procedures that prisoners must follow lawful orders. Cool. Show me the proof that what you're giving me is a lawful order.
Yes.
What defines a lawful order? What would make it an unlawful order? Right? Where does this authority come from that you presume to have?
Mm.
Lawful standing. Oh yeah. How did you get that lawful standing?
They would have hated you.
Some of them
You
did.
know, pushing buttons, and that's a really cool thing because it's needed. You know, too much compliance, eh? You know, and I don't know how I would have gone with going in there, but you know the law, you know, you've got your handle on that.
I
So
know
you
some. I know some of it,
yes.
and fortunately for me, they gave me 3 months to learn more of it.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Gosh, 3 months, Brad.
There's been people that have been through my situation in the past for a lot longer, and they did things that like they didn't actually do anything. I mean, for example, people could question the way I engaged in self-defense against those police officers outside of Tikipanga.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you can question that. But there's been individuals, for example, my friend Ewan, who went to prison for years for simply creating a solution to an environmentally something that is that engages in environmental
Right.
degradation for the sake of production. He created a solution for that
And
and
went to jail.
went to jail for years. So you
God.
know, I still feel unbelievably grateful that my circumstances was not as bad as that. But same as for him, he took it as an opportunity to learn more.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, and you know, you're right around the corrections. And I mean, we all have, I suppose, in our own way, witnessed how that just isn't happening. There's very little correction in those that go in. You know, I work with healing and the wellness, you know, more so industry and natural. And I tried to set up a program to put in to get into the prisons to help with the inmates working through what caused them to be there.
Yeah,
And so working on the wounding and trauma within bodies, because that's really basically the basis of most people that are in there.
yeah,
And
trauma, yeah,
just couldn't get it going anywhere. And maybe today might be a bit different. This was a few years ago, but it's just, it's like everything, it's growing. They're needing more prisons. There's more. So, but it's not working. Like, it's not actually working.
The
It still
religion of
doesn't work.
religion of more is always doomed to well, it's always doomed. The religion of
Yeah,
more is always doomed because there's never enough. You're
yeah,
satisfied. You're never feeling gratitude.
no,
Always wanting something until there's nothing left. I
yeah,
mean, that's half the reason why most of the men are in there,
yeah,
really.
yeah,
And most of the correction that is going on in there. And what I will say that I found about corrections that was really good is that the guards, the workers, the guards, the health team, there was a few shining lights in there that were really good,
yeah,
but it was few and far between. But the correction guards, most of them would be of a mentor mindset that were helping people figure out how they could fix themselves.
yeah,
Just in those
beautiful.
short conversations they had. There were some amazing guards in there that had, the same reading list that I had.
Yeah,
So I would have great conversations with them. But you're right, most of the correction that's going on in there, all corrections is providing is a sense of privation, some restriction, but they're also providing an abundance of addiction as well. So they
yeah,
contradict themselves at the same time. So the only privation they create is a restriction from the society out there, which is in a state of more. They've got
yeah,
a little bit less. So what I went in there to do was to basically cut off everything. So I had my freedom taken away from me. I had my access to my family taken away from me. And I decided that, well, that's not going to be the greatest privation because I'm not going to let them have that. The greatest
mm,
privation is I'm going to restrict food until they provide it from trusted sources. So
yeah,
I'm going to say, I will take food. Thank you for the offer, but I will take food from trusted sources because I want to maintain my lawful stance. And if you want to take up an unlawful stance, that's fine. All that will happen is I will be in a sense of privation that helps me to learn more. And so
yeah,
that's the correction I'm going to do within myself. And most of the guys in there that do correct themselves, they're doing it themselves, not corrections, not certainly not corrections management.
exactly. It's
Themselves.
personals. Yeah,
There was one prisoner in there that I said, look, if I could get you out tomorrow, would you leave? And he said, well, I don't think I've finished uh, with myself in here.
wow.
And that's what a lot of them do. They get up every morning, they come out for the yard time, they do exercise, we chat, we talk about I showed them some things on the, because there's a big screen in there that has all the legislation up. So I showed them some sections of
Good.
legislation.
Yeah,
Ask them to go away in their room and think about why that section says that and what that means and what that word means and stuff like that. There are a lot of good guys in there that just made mistakes and really
yeah,
figure out what they'd lost wasn't the law because they knew the law. Most of them were resentful over the fact that the Crown Corporation or the Crown Government is the thing that's trying to teach them a lesson when they're criminals themselves. So a lot of the time, what they were telling themselves is, "Well, I just need to be a better criminal, like that criminal organisation," which is
mm,
the wrong thing to tell themselves. Absolutely,
yeah.
but I mean that's the inherent contradiction that is not going to correct these individuals.
No, exactly that. And
They knew it.
yes, and
All of them.
I believe we as soul, this journey in this lifetime really came in with um this deep conviction of freedom. Like, we came in to free ourselves this lifetime, and it's been major in that role, all of us playing out whatever part we needed to. And I play my part in assisting those into self-empowerment, and to really know who you are, and that you are a creator being, and that this world doesn't have to be this way. We can switch things around and move it so that we can create something new in it. And and I'm seeing that now. And bless COVID for all its rant that we went through, and all the big, dark, deep, blinking rabbit holes we went down, and all the overload of information that came through. It was a really mental space when we were in that time. It was very mental. And really what it's done is it's given everybody an opportunity to realize they have choice, I feel. And that is what I believe is the Great Awakening, is that people now realize we co-created all of that together, and now we're shifting our conscious awareness around that and moving into something new, and trying to bring in something better for everyone, because we all want what's best for everyone, all of us really, in the deepest, parts of ourselves.
Well, most of us do.
Absolutely, absolutely, most of us. Yes, there's definitely those who aren't there, but for those of us who do, we're doing whatever we can to bring that in, and to have it where it is about everybody, not just self. So there's a huge movement I see happening, and I see that there's a lot of new coming in that's starting to really open us into more harmony and unity and community.
Yeah.
Families coming together, and lockdown was, I saw lots of people, lots of families recognizing that, that 9 to 5, when I have to go outside of my home to do that, I saw a lot of dads starting to work from home because they it really loved their time with their family in that time.
Yeah.
So it changed a lot of attitude, and I loved that. I was really keen to see, okay, how's life going to go back to, or what's it going to go back to, and what will change when people come out of lockdown, because there were so many big aha moments for a lot of people, and it really did shift a lot. A lot more homeschooling their children, and recognizing that that isn't what I want anymore. And there was, that system, that world, that lock-in, that we were all locked into. It started people pulling out and unplugging from it, and
Yeah.
changing their direction, and all sorts. And you did the hard slogs, and you're talking about people being abused for not wearing a mask, and that was definitely, I'm in Whangarei, and I definitely, Chemist Warehouse was big. That was big. But there was so many that, basically chased me through the shop because, put your mask on, going, I'm not doing it. The verbal abuse that people yelled at me from just being out in the car park, not having a mask on. It was just incredible what happened. Like, actually,
It
the
just showed the complete lack of due diligence that
mm,
that organizations of hypothetical competence, right? Because the you set up organizations with groups of people because what you're trying to do is you're trying to pursue a form of competence, competently, right?
yeah,
So, and that's why you choose multiple people to do it with you. So what you don't see, someone else will see. But it just showed for how long people were actually pretending to engage in due diligence towards competence, because all of the information was right there, right in front of them with regard to the mass. And then
yeah,
it would flow on to all the other things because it would be exactly the same.
mm,
They asked people to wear masks to protect themselves from COVID-19.
yeah,
Right? That was what they told them, and nobody asked the question, the specifics. For example, I only came across with all the stuff that I was doing and all the attention I was bringing my way. I only came across one risk assessment expert who was able to detail in their own words why the mask was pointless for everybody to wear as protection from a biological microorganism.
right,
Right? It said that in the safety standards for particulate masks, and then it said it on the box. Do
yeah,
not wear this mask as protection from a biological microorganism hazard. It says that in the standards. And because it says that in the standard 17152009, our AUS NZ safety standards, it says that on the box. And none of these organizations read that or asked the question. But
no,
at the same time, the government was still exempt from fraud by telling people to wear it as a protection against COVID-19, because COVID-19 wasn't a biological microorganism hazard.
right,
COVID-19 was supposedly the symptoms that originated from you suffering from the risk of the hazard.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right then and there, they're telling everybody that you're not engaging in the wearing of this particulate mask for any health and safety reason, because you've already breached your obligations to the hierarchy of controls by going out while you're symptomatic, because you would have been able to engage in elimination, which is the highest form of control, if you stayed at home. But
And
because you went out while suffering from allegedly coronavirus disease, because you could be suffering from influenza or rotavirus and having similar symptoms to coronavirus,
yeah. Yeah.
and you went out and you put a particulate mask over your face to hypothetically contain the symptoms.
Mm.
You still put everybody at risk. How much
Yeah.
risk? We don't know. We didn't do the risk assessment. So what
Mm.
everyone is declaring to everybody in the world by wearing a particulate mask while they're out is, one, I'm incompetent because I didn't stay at home while I was sick. And two, I'm even more incompetent because I'm wearing a protection that doesn't protect other people from the biological threat.
Yeah. And
That's
now they don't even,
yeah, that's what they're declaring to everybody. The people that
yes,
are wearing masks in their car are declaring to everybody that I'm incompetent and that I'm a danger to you.
yes,
That's
exactly.
all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's weird. Eh? It was so weird. It was all just so weird, like actual. And now you can have the C, COVID, and you don't even have to stay home.
Yeah.
Everyone's protected apparently, so it doesn't matter. Oh my God, it's just mental. But so
The financial, the transfer of economic energy has already been completed.
yes, exactly
That's
that.
the only reason they did it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
I know there
and,
was so much involved in it, eh?
and what you said before about how it was sort of the COVID was a big reveal. Before this, I focused mainly on opposition to 1080 and trying to find solutions to 1080, because we lived off the grid, we lived in the bush, we cared about the environment. That was my main cause. That was my central focus until that came along and sort of sent me
Blew
off
it out.
on
Yeah.
a sideward path that I hope that I can come back to my main focus eventually.
Mm,
And one of the issues in and amongst 1080 was our concerns for Cody dieback. And Cody dieback is a general term to describe a Cody tree, an agathis tree, suffering from Phytophthora agathidicida. Now, I work in horticulture, so I know that Phytophthora has many different names
yeah.
depending on the plant that it's affecting. So, for example, we will have quite a bit of problems with Phytophthora kapisci, or the avocado orchards would have problems with Phytophthora that affects your avocado trees. And we know from many research reports that glyphosate makes Phytophthora populations in the soil worse, higher. And we
Right.
also know that there's biologicals that you can buy that can act as an equal and opposite reaction to Phytophthora, and that's Pseudomonas. And normally in horticulture, we wouldn't go and inject our capsicum trees with phosphite like they do with the Cody trees, mainly because that's moronic and expensive and it's not actually going to solve the problem.
Mm,
But they do that in conservation. They just inject these trees with phosphite in the hopeful attempt that it's going to help the tree live for longer. No, we don't do that in horticulture. We add Pseudomonas in water to the soil to deal with the problem at its root. And so you only notice that the tree is dying from Phytophthora when it's on its last legs. So
yeah.
you only notice the problem when it's above the ground and on full display in the tree. And by
Yes.
it's a bit late. The tree's coming down.
Yeah.
That's what COVID was. So all of this corruption and all of this incompetence had been going on for years. All the hiding of crimes of elected officials being in bed with private monopoly organizations. All of that had been going on well before COVID, and it had gotten
Yeah.
really,
For
really,
sure.
really bad.
Absolutely.
COVID was the tree dying in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And yet still, some people are denying that the tree is dying.
Yes. I know it's weird, eh? But to each their own, of course. And I remember seeing I know what you mean about the environment. My God, it just breaks my heart when I go into any of that because it's just too much. I love trees. I love the nature. I love that we are that too. You know, we're so connected to it. But I remember seeing on when I did watch mainstream news years and years and years ago, and the Hawke's Bay orchardists use this huge big metal steel, like a syringe, really, needle that they put down into the roots of the trees in the orchard and to sterilize the soil so no bugs and all of that. And
Right,
oh my,
like a soil nuke.
yeah, my God, I just broke down. Like, actually, I just saw when my mum was passing with cancer, and the big chemo rod going into her arm to pump this poison in that was supposed to save her. And that's what I saw. I just saw this huge needle going into my mum. This is our mum, you know, and holy moly. And that just revved me. I was like, this stuff has got to stop. We have got to stop
Yeah,
doing
it's
this.
an unbelievably crazy philosophical standpoint that a a subscription to total warfare against all life is going to be the remedy to that to
Yeah,
save. I
so
mean,
insane.
that's what it is, really. I mean, what they did
It
is they
is.
took all these concepts from warfare and brought it into hypothetically prop up the economy.
Yeah, yeah,
Like we use DDT and all sorts of stuff here for ages to make ourselves wealthy, and it didn't do that. It put us in massive debt. Of
yeah,
course, it did the opposite. How can anti-life be in service to life?
exactly, exactly. Oh, it just is, it's insane. Like it actually is. It's quite a mental, insane problem. I
I
think.
I call it using sophisticated excuses to masquerade as reason.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And if you
And
ask enough questions, you can break that down pretty quickly. That's
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
one of the most famous, most famous deity or hero figure in our culture, Te Ao culture, is Maui. And not a lot of people know what the word Maui means. If you break the particles apart in te reo words, you can find out what the word means in the makeup. So ma, by way of, we, inquiry, the question, by way of the question.
right, yeah.
Maui the curious.
Mm, mm, yeah. And that's what you know, there's so much, you know, like there's just it's a spiritual loss, really, isn't there? I feel for those who are in that space, you know, that mental space of creating death all the time through, you know,
Yeah,
thinking
loss,
that's
yeah.
going to, you know, just insane. But that there for me is that there is a spiritual disconnect. They haven't connected into that major point that is our life force and what that really means. And that's what saddens me so much when I see the stuff going on because I know the answer to it. We might all know the answer to it, but it's that thing where you can't lead people, you know, the horse to the trough, but you can't make it drink. There's that thing, but also seeing, you know, how it serves people. There's always something, there's always a secondary gain, you know, in doing what we do. There's something we get from that. And they obvious. I mean, we know what they get from it, these elite and this tyranny is that you know, we are their worker slaves. That's what we've been. Until we're not. And that's happening. We are in that shift. I really want to put that there because I see it happening. I do. There's so much more, so many more people now claiming their power of who they are and actually really focusing on what they're going to create into this world. And that for me is beautiful. So Brad, you were just over like 105 odd days where you had no water in that
Just over 100 hours without water.
hour.
Once they transferred me from the high security unit to the health unit.
Yeah. And so you had some of those who worked in there that was sort of with you in respect to
Yeah,
that, like
without them, I probably wouldn't have made it out of there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of the newfound respect I have for people that go into these contradictory organizations and just be their consistent selves within it. But they
Yeah.
keep their head down the entire time, because if they're helping people who are trying to lift the lid on the corruption within their management, they'll
Yeah.
be transferred out, or their job will be put under pressure.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've noticed for quite a few years now. There's a lot of people that were working in all of these sorts of industries and systems within, and they were really
Right.
holding the light, really working from heart and being sincere to themselves as best they could in their, uniqueness and their authenticity. And 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 it got to a point just before COVID, really, where so many of these people that I see and talk with and come in, my clients, I suppose, were finding it more and more physically damaging to them to be there now. It had become so dark in those industries and those places where they were holding light, that it had just become so dark that it was actually harming them physically, health-wise, all the rest of it. And there was points in there where I was saying, just keep going. It's all going to change. And then it got to that point where it was like, get out now. It's not going to happen. And so there was a lot of movement from all of those that I knew, midwives, lawyers, family court people, like just so many different industries that were just overloaded so much with this darkness that came in and had really infiltrated and taken over in many, many ways. And therefore they move out of that, and then it's the what else, because our identity is we are that. Sometimes we feel that this job I am is who I am, this job that I'm doing, this industry that I work in is who I am. So there was a huge movement in respect to the I ams, what am I now without that? And then there was this movement that came through, because I'm always saying to people, look for what's not there. Look for what isn't out there. What is it that you could create into this community that is not there? This here's not working. So take the good stuff out of it, and what else can you create? And there was a big movement starting way before COVID that was like that. And I could see this whole rumble going. It was like the earthquake coming. You could hear the rumble, could see the signs, and then all of a sudden here we are, it hit. And it was very interesting. And still today, people are still shifting their perspective around the world and life in general and with their families. And it's big.
Yeah, my mum's still struggling with that. She couldn't keep going in midwifery after what she witnessed in the hospitals.
Yeah,
I don't really blame her, but you still have something to offer the world.
you
It
do.
reminds me of this a saying I heard a while ago. I hope I get it right. Don't underestimate the hole that you'll leave with your absence,
Yes,
because everyone has a light to offer,
they
and if you
do.
pull yourself out of the world because you think it's getting so dark and you can't take it anymore, well, that's just one more light you've pulled out of the fabric of reality.
Mm.
Right. So you always have something amazing to offer. And then, yes, there's going to be some hard times, but don't you start telling yourself that it's too hard for you. Because
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit. You are capable of doing a lot of things. I've had so many messages from people saying, mate, I don't know how you did it. I wouldn't be able to do that. And the most instant reply I want to give to those people is, yeah, you could.
yeah,
Absolutely. You can do hard things. And
yeah.
one of those individuals that said that to me was the individual that gave me that saying, you can do hard things. Whenever he saw me at work struggling, he'd go, Brad, you can do hard things.
Yeah, beautiful, eh?
And I just said that straight back to him. And that's what I say to everybody else, this hasn't stopped getting harder. It's going to get harder.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's impetus for you to make your light shine even brighter.
But
Because
that's the whole thing, isn't it, with life in general? We birth into experience, and the experiencing might not be what we want to experience, but you don't get that until you realize that actually I can choose my experiences. And then you start really directing your life into what it is you really wish to choose and be as such. But in those moments back there where we're not aware of that really, and life's just happening, it's often very difficult. And we've learned so much through that hardship or difficulties or the traumas, whatever the situations, but we learn so much from it about ourselves, about how that will or that strength is within us that's driving us through that. What is that? There's an innate knowing that we can handle everything that we get given. And we might not know it in the moment, but definitely when we come through it. And I see a lot of people today that are still in that place of battle up, yes, which is okay, that's their thing. Um, but that they want all that stuff to go away, all the things that we experienced over that 4 or 5 years, there's still all that fabric of that playing out. And everyone, is wanting that to go away because it's not what they want, those who see it, I mean. And, as I say to them all, what we learned was huge through that. And we've always learned through tough time. We've always learned through things that we didn't like. And so, or didn't like to experience, go through, and feel, because it's the feeling that comes in that we don't enjoy. We all want to be happy, joyful, and play, it's like that, and love. But what there is this, and I go here because it's like that world there. There are people in there that still need to learn stuff. There's people in there that need to experience more of the hardship, more of the control, more of the whatever it is they need to learn to get through, to awaken somehow, you know?
And they'll be stuck in that turmoil for as long as they decide to be stuck in that turmoil.
Exactly, exactly. So,
Because they're anxious for tomorrow.
yes,
So long as
absolutely
you're anxious
correct.
for tomorrow, sufficient for the day will be today's suffering. They will
Yes,
continue to suffer. I mean,
yeah,
my suffering didn't end in that prison until the anxiousness for getting out was gone.
yes.
That's
It's
usually the case
allowing
for
it.
everybody that's in there. Yeah.
Exactly. Accepting where you are, eh? That's
I
what
mean,
that's what changes it.
it doesn't mean that you accept these people getting away with what they did with no justice, no revealing of the truth,
No.
no acceptance. No, absolutely not. But you don't let what they're doing rue your life, or
Yeah.
ruin your life.
Yes.
Don't let the thoughts of anxiousness that you're creating ruin your life as a response to what they're doing.
Mm,
Figure out what it is to be sovereign, the embodiment of law,
yes.
walk that path in your own unique way, and you go and get that justice yourself alongside a bunch of other people. You make
Mm,
it happen.
yeah.
A lot of people in this movement right now are focusing on all of the doom and gloom that is supposedly being brought our way by all those individuals.
I
If
know.
you have a strong mind, or you claim you have a strong mind, my question to you is, what on earth are you doing? Why
Yeah.
are you helping them? And if you look confused and puzzled and you go, what do you mean? How am I helping them? I'm exposing them. Yet to who? You're
Yes.
reiterating all their plans. You're getting anxious over it. You're suffering. You're helping.
Absolutely. Empowering them to be there.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. Exactly. I know. I've
Everything
got
starts with thought. Everything. Even
does.
before it becomes an action. And if
Yeah.
your thoughts are drowning in the despair of what they're supposedly bringing, then so will everybody else eventually, and you would have helped.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that was the most frustrating part for me in the whole ordeal when it all blew up was that people went to mind instead of actually going to their heart and seeing a bigger picture, seeing and understanding about energy too. I'm all about energy, but when we put our focus into something, we're empowering it to be there. Like, what you focus on grows, doesn't it? There's been a war on drugs. Well, what's happened? There's more drugs out there than ever. War on firearms, it's just got insane. So when we focus into something, we are empowering it to be there. And that was what was my biggest message out there at that time was, don't focus on this. I know it's consuming everyone. It was meant to. That's what their whole purpose in it was to bring you down to a place that was less than, who you really are.
That's incredibly pertinent what you just said there. Outside of the two, what we've called great wars, World War One and World War Two. Well, World War One was the great one, and World War Two was the follow-on from that. It
Mm.
seems that we've just been focusing during peacetime on war
Yes,
as a solution to war, or
exactly,
a war
exactly.
mindset.
Yeah,
That's the madness of all of this. Even outside
does.
of war, we're still at war.
Exactly. And I don't choose to be. That's the thing. And I think, I had a chat with Natalie Coulter Walsh on RCR, and it was great. And she said, well, we talk a bit about the awakening, this great awakening thing, but I've never actually had a program on it because I chose that topic. And I said, I think people have a idea that it's this, that they're getting to know who they are, that we're more than this physical form, and that sort of thing. But I don't believe that that's what the Great Awakening is. I said, I feel we've always had an innate knowing that we were more than what we are, and there's this deeper wisdom that comes through us when we actually allow it to, and that guides us. I just know that. But I said, I believe the real awakening in this time was that we realized we were co-creating together, and that what we had actually co-created was now playing out in front of us, and there was no denying our part in that. And how everything was just sort of like a projection of our own thought processing and our own emotional way and all of the things. But then also through that, I believe that the other great awakening was that, yes, we co-created this together, and no, this isn't what we want. So, okay, what else? And then realizing that we actually had a choice, and that choice was available to us. And I believe a lot of people didn't recognize they even had choice in that time. There was so many saying, well, I didn't have a choice. I have to feed my family. I have to do it. But yes, you did. You made a choice. You had a choice. You were weighing it up. There were choices. And so it was that there was actually choice. And then the realization of those choices. What did that involve? How did that come up? Like what was the outcome of those choices? And then there was this recognizing again, too, that most of those people made the choice, but actually, shit, this wasn't actually what I really wanted to do. So there was another deep dive into why did I make that choice? And the realization then that, okay, I can now make different choices. And so it brought choice to mind, it brought the awareness that actually life is full of choice. We have free
Absolutely.
will,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
I had a choice the entire time throughout this whole process. I had a choice to go to sentencing. For me, that didn't seem like the right choice. And in fact, for our entire family, we all agreed that it wasn't the right choice.
Mm,
Based off everything I knew and had been learning about how this all works. Now, just because you don't have that perspective doesn't mean that you know that that was the right choice. You may have a different perspective around
mm,
courts and their jurisdiction, and you may presume that that was the wrong choice, and I may not have suffered all of this had I just gone. Okay, sure. But what I learned by making the choice not to go to sentencing and choosing instead to offer something else in return and see if they stick to all their rules and see how this story plays out afterwards, that was the choice I would still make today
mm.
because I learned far more than taking the easy road.
Yeah,
I knew this was going to be eventually hard. I just needed to wait for them to figure out their strategy that was always going to smash them in the face because they weren't dealing with somebody that was just going to give up. That's not
yes,
who I am. They should have enough intelligence on me right now to know that if you go with me on the hard road, you will eventually lose in the end. That's how it's always worked with me.
yeah,
You can make up as if he's taken the stupid route because it's been harder on them. No,
no,
no. I mean,
you
I was told by fearmongers who
can't.
fear mongering my mother throughout all of this that what they were trying to do was they were trying to make it so people didn't walk the same path as you, that they were in, that they were going to
Yeah.
make an example out of you. That was the words they used.
Yes.
I sort of smiled on the inside and I thought, wow, okay, I'm going to make it so it's a completely different outcome.
Mm, cool.
I'm going to come out and say, I went through a great, massive journey. I left 30 kgs of bad weight behind me and I learned a huge amount and I met some amazing people. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And because it was difficult, would I do it a different way so it's easier next time? And I say to everybody, absolutely not.
Mm.
And so if that was their intention, if their intention was to make an example out of me, well, I hope you're happy with that.
Yeah. I know, great outcome.
Yeah.
It's, and I know myself throughout my life that I've stood in those doorways like you, not so much of that sort of severity where you were, but in those decisions that I knew for me to stay authentic to me, for me to really stay in my own integrity of self, it was going to be I was going to be crucified, or it was going to be a very, very difficult path to go down. But knowing also that I couldn't do it any other way. I
Yeah.
couldn't go against that integrity within myself. I couldn't turn against myself.
Same.
And it's just a deep knowing. That is just how you have to do it. And everyone else has to suck it up. However they can suck it up, because that's how I'm doing it. But it always does end up the best. And we learn so much from it. And there is often, all of my journey in my past, I wouldn't change any of it. And some of it was so difficult and painful and all the stuff, but I would not change it because I learned so much about myself in those times.
Yeah.
And they're the gold nuggets, they are. But we do get to a point, I feel like I have now, where I just don't need to have all the hard anymore. I've done my leg. I've got myself to a point where I'm really, really in about, it's just about the peace, and, such inner peace within myself. And that just reflects in my life. And, it's a beautiful thing. So we do.
That's generally how it works for people that put what they want to put last first and what they want to put first last. They get
Yes.
good things later in their life anyway because they put the hard things first, and so the easy things are going to come last.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
for sure. And it is a I see the disrespect of life itself in humanity as well.
yeah,
Uh,
it stems from the resentment of life being so hard sometimes.
yes, yeah.
It's like they've got this childish, arrogant resentment at the nature of life and how life needs to be to teach you deep, meaningful lessons that last.
Yeah,
Because they haven't taken the time to get why it is and be grateful that that's what it is.
exactly.
They haven't read books by um, was a Man's Search for Meaning, Dr. Victor E. Frankl. You know,
Yeah,
he was a guy that was put in a concentration camp as a psychologist, and he came up with logotherapy out of it.
right. Yeah.
These awful things happen, and no, we shouldn't just let them happen and
No.
let them go without justice. But at the same time, let's look towards the people that these hard times created and the lessons that they created for us so that we don't forget, right? That's the
Exactly.
thing that keeps happening. So this has to keep happening as we keep forgetting,
Yeah,
keep
exactly
paying
that.
attention.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
paying
But
attention happen again.
yeah, yeah. And it's, I don't know. I think there's new world birthing all the time, really, isn't there, within us all the time, and all of us, most of us. I always say all of us, but most of us are just trying to make ourselves better in whatever way we can, for our family mainly, but for self as well. I think we tend to put everyone else first before us, for a very long time. And then it comes to that point where we get shown that actually, if I'm not right, then my family won't be right either. So then we start
Yeah.
looking back at ourselves and taking more care with ourselves. So Brad, where from here? What did you come through that experience? Because I know it worsened for you. You had quite an ordeal before it got better.
Yeah.
And if you want to share part of that, you can, obviously. But in respect to now, so you've come through all of that, you look back on that, you know what you've got out of it, and there'll still be more ahas, I'm sure, that come in over time, eh? Doesn't all land at once sometimes. But in that, when you look back on that and sit with yourself now, what is it about you that's changed on a deep level? And that what is that now that you head into life with? What I'm trying to say, I think, is there's two parts to it, I suppose. There's the inner deeper you, that wisdom and the knowing and the the faith you have in yourself and your guidance. But then on another scale, what are you creating now? Are you looking into, like, is there something around that whole thing and the system and the prison system particularly, and you're going, right, I'm going to create this thing that's going to help that thing there. Is there any part of you that has any sort of idea around things like that, or plan ahead that you've got going on? What from now?
Well,
If anything, I mean, it doesn't have to be. You're just
there
healing.
are some people that are invested in trying to correct corrections in our team. Um,
Yeah,
that's not. I haven't really. Once I forgive someone for something, it's pretty much over for me. It's just
yeah, move on. Yeah, I get it.
there are a lot of people in my circle who really want to like teach people a lesson, and they want to get um, remedy out of it from some people. And to be honest, I sometimes want that as well.
Mm,
But at the same time, like there's so much more important things to do for family, community, and the nation that it seems like that might be a pointless distraction. But
yeah,
each, each thing has its time for consideration.
yeah,
Right now, because I stuck to my principles so hard in a way that it took away it took its toll on people that I love, my family. I feel like the last few weeks has just sort of been focusing on giving back what was lost from them, and that's something you never really want when you stick to your principles, and the people who want you to break your principles uh, want will do everything they can, including putting your life in danger, to get you to break on those principles. It
mm,
affects people you don't want it to affect.
yeah,
My father always he was into riding bikes super fast, and he always used to say that he's not worried if he dies. He's not afraid of death. And I said, yeah, but have you considered the effect it would have on those who care about you and want you around? Is this just a bravado excuse you're using to allow
yeah,
yourself to do this thing that you really enjoy, or are you going to think about it a little bit more carefully in relation to the people that you supposedly care about? And I'm not saying that this is a reason for me to break my principles. I never would have done that, and my family knew that. But
yeah,
I have to acknowledge how much it's taken a toll on them now that I'm back. Right at the end of the day, all of this that's going on in the background is a threat to to a functional family unit, and
yeah,
it's being done by people who are presuming to be the parents of entire nations, right? And they're doing it in such a negative and toxic way. It should be apparent to everybody who has a healthy, loving family that they're not acting like healthy parents for nations,
no,
because we don't behave like that.
no,
We don't tyrannize our children. We don't tyrannize our partners. We have long, arduous discussions, difficult discussions at times, that doesn't result in either one winning.
yeah,
Most of the time, it results in both of us apologizing for how we were stupid and ignorant and arrogant and resentful.
Mm,
And then we carry on in a loving fashion. That's how functional families work. The
yeah.
government doesn't work like that.
No,
Sorry to
no.
break it to all the people who might be watching this that think that the government is a functional organization. No, it's an ongoing argument between a neo-feminine archetype and a neo-masculine archetype,
Yeah.
right? A masculine role model that doesn't like the opposing feminine role model across the other side of the house. And that's how it's been for decades. It's
Yeah.
just a never-ending argument with no resolution. And so for me, after all of this ordeal, my focus is figuring out how to be really good here first.
Yeah.
And then I'll go out to the community and encourage those good, consistent, functional families to start interacting more with us out there and being more considerate about your energy exchange.
Yeah.
You want to be exchanging energy with people who are constantly fighting with one another in sophisticated ways and encouraging the rest of the population to do it through example?
Yeah.
Probably not. If you keep giving them energy and they're able to keep printing energy, then they're going to have the monopoly on energy, and that's going to be the reality out here. So
Yeah.
that's
For
where
sure.
I'm going to start. I don't know enough about corrections to correct that. I'm hoping that there are going to be people that join our team that are going to help with that. There's a lot of things that need fixing, and individuals aren't going to fix it. It's
No.
strong individuals coming together in family units and collective organizations who are going to keep each other accountable, that are going to slowly work towards changing and creating, co-creating a place that's truly going to be I guess, a catalyst for thriving in general.
Absolutely. And it's the people. It's going to be the people.
Yep.
It's got to change from that level. And that is what's happening. And I see, Brad, that you're into the farmers markets.
Yep.
I love them too. The Whangarei one was it's a great market here. But aren't they a great atmosphere?
Yeah.
And I just love, I quietly just walk through and do my thing, but I love hearing the conversation. You just come across conversation with one of the growers and having a conversation with somebody and they're talking weather and, climate and stuff. And I love it. It's a great community thing. And yeah, we need to keep those going for sure.
Yeah. And
Mm,
even get more people to engage with it, because the other things, and where I've always seen the farmers markets as quality and passion ratcheted up a level, and
yeah,
convenience. Well, convenience is what you make it. If you want to go
absolutely.
to a place that provides you maximal convenience, buyer beware. Because
Totally.
when someone tailors their organization towards maximizing convenience, they also increase the risks.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And all the fake food, though, I'm watching people trying to cut into watermelon that are just like rubber now. America this is, but I mean, it is happening. I
no,
totally yeah, I love the markets, and
they're trying to create a food scarcity problem that doesn't exist.
yes, totally, exactly
People
that.
that work in horticulture, and I work in fungoculture as well, and I have a massive passion for producing food. You don't need any of that stuff. You don't need those technological advancements. They're helpful, so you could produce $10,000 to $15,000 worth of mushroom a week without actually having to be there for most of it.
Yeah,
And you could do multiple different business models if you like, and do that much in today's age. But you don't. It's not necessary.
no, not
I
at all.
can I can produce $10,000 to $15,000 worth of mushrooms a week and still be engaged in that job model and still have enough time to homeschool my kids and stuff like that. And I
Mm,
don't have to use any chemical pesticides. I don't have to use any egregious invasive technology. I
yeah,
don't have to use GE technology. All I
yeah,
have to do is be wise and careful and considerate and pay attention about what I do.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
the food scarcity problem is non-existent. It's
Mm,
just it's just a narrative to encourage people to buy into more uh, technological advancements that haven't been thoroughly fleshed out yet. And
yeah,
that's the same with the trans stuff.
yeah.
No, I used to go to circus festivals quite a lot. It was a favorite thing for us family to do. And then this insistence of encouraging people to force people to use other people's pronouns. And I became public enemy number one at these, because I'd ask the question, I'd ask, do you even want to be using pronouns?
Yeah.
They said, what do you mean? I said, well, it seems to me like you're on a radical pursuit of being a purely an individual. So why would you want to group yourself into another group under the banner of pronouns that make no sense? Seems like you just want to be the ire of masculine individuals that would look at that inaccuracy as an offense to their values. Why can't you just identify as your name and get rid of pronouns altogether?
Yes.
And they got really annoyed by that. And I said, look, the biggest problem I have with this is that large monopoly corporations who you yourself abhor are going to be making a lot of money off you promoting all of this division.
Mm,
Because what they want you to do is they want you to be completely uncomfortable in the body that you have right now. So you will spend money in the
exactly.
cosmetic surgery industry and the pharmaceutical industry to change your physical body for what? For
Yeah.
90 more years here in this realm? When you want
Mm,
to identify as the spirit that's within that body, most of
yeah.
and then you want to butcher the thing that it lives in and hope that there's no trauma. Good
No,
luck with
isn't
that.
that just
Good
so
luck.
insane? Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're going to use your internal trauma of you trying to figure out who you are to make lots of money to hypothetically pursue immortality for themselves later on. That's
Exactly.
all it is. That's why they're encouraging you to do this,
Yeah.
because you will be their willing experiments because you are getting more and more lost in this new identity you're crafting for yourself. That makes no sense because they're not proper. You can't identify as more than one entity.
No, yeah.
Ah, you can't
It's
go
so
and
insane.
convince masculine types to call you they when they know you're not they.
Yeah. Oh, we're women now being referred to as the partner that carries eggs.
Yeah, because and the deeper legal reasoning
You know?
behind it is they want to take away the identification that exempts you from being the property of Caesar.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's just insane. And
Birthing persons.
yes, birthing
And,
people.
and and here's the irony, like they call themselves trans rights activists by trying to get themselves to identify as words they've created for the legal sense. You're not advocating for your rights by identifying as those labels. You're advocating for the loss of your rights
Yeah.
by identifying as those labels. That's what you're doing. And that's the sad reality behind it. I mean, this is why, like, I look at some of the comments with reference to what I've gone through, and I don't even. You asked me before what it is I've gotten out of this experience. It's more clarity and more calm.
Yeah.
Now I can see comments directed toward me from a certain perspective, and they're cruel and they're mean and they're awful. But it doesn't make me mad anymore because I get instantly that they're coming from a position of not knowing what I know. They
Yes,
couldn't, they,
exactly.
they couldn't possibly know what I know because it's taken years and years and years of passionate seeking to do so, and they're not even interested.
No.
The only thing they're interested in is creating a caricature out of me that is hopefully effective in getting people to stop listening to me. And if they can do that, maybe they can get some money from people who really
Absolutely. It
want to.
is that, totally. And talking about these, ideals that people have and they just don't really understand what they're up to is a group of skinheads that a friend of mine was involved in. And yeah, they were all lost boys actually. They all had mother issues and they were all just lost boys. But I said to them, it's really weird, I don't understand. And they went, what? And I said, well, you do the Hail Hitler. I said, but actually, you dress and look like the gas Jews. So I don't quite understand. Well, they just went into this like they couldn't actually come back with anything. They were blown away. They hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
And that just blew them away. They had no idea what the hell they were up to actually. They were
yeah.
just needing to be in a gang.
Did you read about that? Did that just come from within? That they
Yeah,
look.
that was just my like actually what
Yeah.
is that about? Because
The individual that created that literally created that with that intention. It was a sick joke.
oh my goodness, okay. And see, they wouldn't even know that. They don't even know that.
Yeah,
Those who are in there,
yeah,
out the gate. See, it's just what happens though, isn't it? There's a actual classic example of how these things are created
yeah.
and that whole not knowing, not looking for the information around that. Why am I actually even wanting to do that? And let's have a look at why. And not even engaging in any sort of informative information for them to think that's so funny. I just think that's funny.
Yeah, and what's funny is the the one that they're saluting, Hitler, and they call them far right Nazis. Well,
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler psychologically was slightly feminine, so left. He was a vegetarian. He was an artist. He was very charismatic. He was essentially the charismatic lefty that was saying the things that resonated with the individuals that drove the full force of this military. And they were the front line when they were taking over. But once that front line was obliterated and they held territory, they capitulated just as quickly.
Mm, mm,
As fast as the pendulum swing goes to take over a certain paradigm, it'll swing back the other way
yeah.
just as hard to correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a funny little life we live, isn't it? Gosh,
Hmm.
honestly. And I just sit there. It entertains me a lot. If I look into that part now, that world, I really just do not look at anything out there anymore. It's just not where I'm at. I just am in my little bubble in my world with my family, creating the best life we can as, in it. So thank you so much, Brad, for coming in. Honestly, it's been wonderful to have this chat with you.
Right,
And
Mandy?
um, yeah, and all the very, very best for you and your family, and much, much love to you all. And yeah, we'll keep seeing you out there, no doubt, doing whatever it might be that pops in next, and
Yeah,
just living life.
that's
Lovely.
pretty much how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, very much thankful to you and for all you've done. And God, it's been a crazy time, and you really did hold the line. And I, for one, am very thankful for that because we needed to, and a lot's fled when we didn't want them to flee. But it was great having you around and
They
seeing.
certainly don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Worked
Exactly.
out if it worked out badly for me, I'm sure they'd still be talking about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All the very best. Much love,
Thank you,
Brad.
Andy. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I wish the best for you and your family.
Thank you.